What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Marvel Cinematic Universe film, Black Panther. Black Panther is directed by Ryan Coogler of Creed fame, stars Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, and Lupita Nyong'o. Black Panther picks up immediately after the events of Captain America Civil War, where T'Challa, the now king of Wakanda, following his father's passing during the events of Civil War, is forced to take upon the throne and therefore all of the issues facing Wakanda. I think the most important thing to talk about with this film is how different it is from everything else from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, while it still definitely has some of those rather tropey superhero elements we see in every Marvel film, it also is very different in the tone and the themes that it takes. It focuses much more heavily on culture and where someone is from and where they are going, rather than just sort of a generic superhero backstory. This one is much more in-depth and has a lot more detail than a lot of the other ones. I think with the themes that this film tackles and the different character arcs that it has, it is something that's very different than what we've seen in the Marvel Universe, and I think that that's very much needed. A lot of people have begun to feel that Marvel fatigue of 2 or 3 films coming out every single year, and I think this one can sort of thwart that because it feels so different and it has so many new things going on, and it doesn't sort of feed in to that idea that the Marvel Universe is becoming stale because this one feels so fresh. And then to go along with the story, it's also different in the sense that Chadwick Boseman, who plays T'Challa, the King of Wakanda, now the Black Panther, who gives a really solid performance in the film, is also not just there to like fight a bad guy. There's more to his plot than I'm hunting down said villain or villain is hunting me down. He is forced to be the leader of an entire country in this film. He is taking upon all of the problems that the Kingdom of Wakanda faces, and I think that that's so different from almost any other character that we've gotten, and I really enjoyed that because it adds this extra depth to his character, because he's more than just a hero for the world fighting villains. He's literally the defender of his country and the king of it at the same time, and I really enjoyed that. This film's different sort of tone in that aspect. This has this very wide tone. T'Challa has this humongous kingdom to defend, and I really love that about his character, and I think that the vastness of this film, how big it all feels, reminds me of how small everything in Ant-Man felt, and I think that that's why Ant-Man worked so well, and I think that these are sort of two sides of the same coin as they're both in the Marvel Universe, but they feel so different from everything else in the universe, but they both work so well on their own. The special effects in the film are really good for the most part. I think that the set design and costume design and all of those aspects looked really cool. They really nailed this futuristic Wakanda, and I thought that it was all really visually stunning. All of the scenes in Wakanda and all the different technologies that they had I thought were really cool. Ryan Coogler honestly did a very solid job directing this film. There are a couple issues that I have that I'll get to later, but I think that he did the best with sort of the vastness of this story, how big it all feels. There's shots in different places. The whole film does not take place in Wakanda, but I think that he really handled the emotional and very effects-driven sequences well. It's some of the smaller scenes that maybe he didn't handle as well, but I do think that Coogler shined a lot in the dialogue sequences of this film and sort of capturing the intensity of different characters. As with every Marvel film, this movie does have some good comic relief, mostly coming from Martin Freeman and Letitia Wright, who plays Chadwick Boseman's little sister in the film. She's the princess of Wakanda, and she's sort of like the head of their tech. She was really funny, Martin Freeman was really funny, and then along with that, Andy Serkis, who reprises his role as Claw, was very funny in this film. Honestly, if you don't like Andy Serkis, or you don't think he's a talented actor, because almost all of his roles are CGI, I feel like this kind of proves you wrong, because he's so funny in this role, and he has so much charisma in it, and you really hate him, but you kind of love him at the same time, and I thought that his character was very endearing for those reasons in this film, and I really enjoyed every single scene that he was in. And then I also do want to give a shout out to Sterling K. Brown, who had a rather small role in this film. And I don't watch This Is Us, I know that's the show that everyone knows him for, so I don't have any connection to him as an actor, but he has really only like 2 or 3 scenes in this film, but those 2 or 3 scenes are so pivotal to the story and selling us on a certain story arc that is going on in the film, and I thought he nailed it. Like, I thought he was so good in those few scenes and really like stuck out even though he was in the film for such a short amount of time. Now, the thing I want to cover the most in terms of what I liked about this movie is the villain or villains. So Michael B. Jordan plays Killmonger while Andy Serkis plays Claw. And I did already mention Claw, how much I enjoyed Serkis in this role, but Michael B. Jordan is the one that everybody is talking about, and I understand why. First off, Michael B. Jordan gives probably one of the best performances in the MCU up to this point in this film. His charisma and his anger and his just overall swagger in this this film is so perfect for the character that he's playing, and I think Michael B. Jordan absolutely nailed that. He also nailed the physicality of his role, and I loved his line delivery because it's so intense in the whole film. But I think the reason that Killmonger is so important in this film is that you understand entirely why he's doing what he's doing. He's not one of those villains where you're like, I get that, but like there's a different way you could do that. His only goal in this film is something that there is no other way to obtain than the way he wants to do it. And he's also an extremely politically driven character, not just in the sense of the way he is written, but in the fact that his character is talking about real issues that exist in the real world. And I think that that's the power that Killmonger is carrying in this film, and why so many audience members are enjoying him, is because he's bringing up actual complaints that people have in the real world, and he is fighting for those reasons in this film. However, Killmonger is also one of the problems that I have with the film, as the script decided to only have him be in 1 or 2 scenes until about halfway through the film, where then he is thrust into being in a lot of the film. And while you really love him for that last half of the film, it was a little harder to connect to him because he was barely in the beginning of this film. And when I say barely, I literally mean like he's in like 2 or 3 scenes until he all of a sudden is in almost every single one. And while his character is really awesome, he's politically driven, I love him in this film, and I really think B. Jordan did a great job. I really wish he would have just been more involved throughout the whole film rather than just sort of being thrust into the story so primarily during the last half. And I don't know if this is a fair criticism, but I'm throwing it in here because it's something that bugged me. This film has one of the most talked about and honestly like acclaimed soundtracks that has come out for a film in a while. It's curated by Kendrick Lamar, yet for some reason they decided to barely include it in this film. Not counting the song that's in the credits, because it's not really the movie, it's the credits. There's 2 or 3 songs in the film, and you get the beat of another 2 or 3 in scenes, and that's it. This is like a 15-song long album made by arguably the greatest hip-hop artist alive right now, and they kind of just squandered it, and it's sort of upsetting because I think that there were scenes in this film that would have benefited from that music because it would have elevated it even more, but I just kind of found that disappointing. But by far, and I mean by far, my biggest issue with this film is the fight choreography. Black Panther versus Winter Soldier in Civil War, when they fight each other, is one of my favorite fights in all of the MCU. However, this film was just filled with choppy action sequences that, no offense to Ryan Coogler, I don't really know what he was thinking when he shot them, because after seeing Creed, you know that he can handle a sequence that involves hand-to-hand combat in boxing, but this film, it's just some extra choreography, yet it's filmed so much worse than Creed was. And it's not to say that it's all terrible, it's just like, you know, it could be so much better because we've seen fight scenes with Black Panther that are so much better in the previous film. And I really was disappointed by that, not to mention the fact that the hand-to-hand combat sequences that there are, while they're decent, they could be a lot better. Also, the big climactic fights in this movie are filled with CGI, and Black Panther is a character kind of like Captain America, where his big fight sequences should be highlighted by really well choreographed hand-to-hand combat, and not like a huge CGI fest like an Iron Man or a Thor would have. And I really found that disappointing, especially in the big climactic final battle of this film, as it was filled with so much CGI that, if we're being totally honest, didn't look great. Like, some of it looked really good in the film, and then a few of the sequences, it was kind of like, yeah, that looks like really buttery CGI, and I'm just gonna call it out for what it is. I really want to enjoy this sequence, but for some reason you've chosen to take a character whose whole thing is hand-to-hand combat and fighting people like a giant jungle cat and just fill the sequence with CGI, which really bugged me and I think could have been done so much better. I'm gonna give Black Panther a B+. This movie is a really solid Marvel Cinematic Universe film. It has its problems, and I wouldn't say it's breaking the mold to become one of my favorites, but it is very different from previous ones, and I think for that reason, I recommend everyone go check it out, especially if you're a fan of superhero movies. Obviously go see this one, because it is a lot of fun. I just hope that in future ones they're able to fix some of the mistakes that in this film I feel would have been easily fixed, but for some reason they just sort of snuck past and ended up in the final product. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of Black Panther, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and hope to see you guys later.